a strong magnitude 3.8 earthquake rocked Tennessee just 24 hours after the strong magnitude 4.5 earthquake rocked Hutchinson, Kansas. That was felt by over 3,500 people reported last night. This one here in Tennessee felt already by 1,603 that have reported to USGS. It's been felt over the large part of the area. It's in Fincastle, Tennessee, at a depth of 35.4 kilometers. The quake yesterday in Hutchinson, Kansas was very shallow, was at 5 kilometers depth. I have to remind you, okay, we'll look at the map together, but we know that nobody's talking about the mid-continental rift when we talk about the details given to us by USGS concerning the area of the earthquake that we sometimes read. There is no mention whatsoever about the mid-continental rift, and it is there, and it also has magma underneath, and no one knows where this magma is coming from. My guess is that it's coming from, when you look at the map, we'll look at it, and you can make a bet as to where it's coming from. But let's look at that together. Now this is the area of the mid-continental rift. You can see it's going all the way, the west arm is going all the way down to Texas. This are the earthquakes in Canada, what they look like. You can see the ones around the Great Lakes and the ones around extension of the New Madrid seismic zone up to Quebec. That's all volcanic as well. Now we didn't know that the East Coast has volcanoes, but it does. We're going to take a look at them on the map. There's East Coast submarine volcanoes, 30 of them, that are pushing towards Maine, Canada, and areas of the eastern seaboard. This is, take a look at that horseshoe-shaped red mantle is what's under the Great Lakes and coming into the western part up to all the way down to Texas. This is our Seismo Berkeley map. This is yesterday's quake, Kansas, Hutchinson, Kansas. It was shallow at 4.5. And let's just take a look at how many people have reported it. 3,200 and some odd, okay? And this is today's quake in Fincastle, Tennessee. 1,600 already have reported it. This was just a few hours ago. And going into the map, we'll see this is the area. Let's get rid of this. Okay, this is the area of that horseshoe-shaped mantle plume that we saw coming, the west arm going through this area, Kansas up to Texas. This area has magma underneath. At one point, Superior was much closer to Wyoming. Superior was much closer to Wyoming, where we have Yellowstone, and that area was a rift, and it spread out. There's mantle underneath spreading it this way and that. And this took place about 1 billion years ago, 880 million years ago. One of the oldest geological formations in the world. And after we had this earthquake of 4.5, Hutchinson, Kansas, a lot of people felt it. It must have been, it was a very wide area of shaking around this central United States. As we said, this is much softer sediment than the West Coast. That's why people feel it. 4.5 could have been felt like a 6 point something equivalent on the West Coast. So it's pretty strong. And this one here, as we know, 3.8. That's not small, and people, 1,600 reported feeling it. One of my viewers said that at that Kansas quake, that her dogs were barking just before the quake because, you know, they can hear it. They can hear the vibrations underneath before we do, before we feel it. So this is, of course, mid-continental rift, and this is New Madrid seismic zone. It's a real foot rift. The real foot rift goes all the way this way, as we saw in the Canadian quakes. And Quebec, this area here, had one of the biggest explosions ever, VEI-9 explosion supervolcano right here. You wouldn't think of it. You know, you say, oh, East Coast has nothing. Well, no, that's not so. Okay, let's go here a little bit so you can see what's taking place here. this is a seamount of volcanoes. 30 volcanoes here, going this way and this way. Maine has 5 volcanoes. One of my past videos on Maine, 4 of the volcanoes there of Maine are in a 100-meter distance. 4 volcanoes. And that, we've had, of course, these things come off. These spots, the pins come off after a few days. But we've had earthquakes around here, and we've also had a few weeks ago. You remember the New York quakes, upstate New York, also upstate Pennsylvania, and also around Lake Ontario. And we've had on Rhode Island and Boston. Where's Rhode Island? There it is, in Boston. Rhode Island, just basically off Long Island, New York. And that area is filling with quakes that stop around here because that's a shield here. That's the Manicouagan crater. That's the Manicouagan crater of the asteroid strike, and it was a double whammy. This one, and that one together. Okay, and going back to this, New Madrid seismic zone is a rift valley, and it starts from here. This is New Madrid area. Right there, that's Tennessee, right? New Madrid is up here anyway. Missouri, right there. And going through the Mississippi River, it goes this way. And the fault goes along Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and up to St. Lawrence Seaway. So this, of course, okay, and wherever you have rift valleys, you usually have volcanoes anyway. But that's it right there, and this as well. All these faults right here. Now let's go and read a little bit about this. Let's talk a little bit about the magma before we go into that. I have no doubt that this was shaken so much, so strongly, and it was felt so strongly that it shook the nearby faults here. Okay, that happens, especially here, but we have it here as well, because it was, let's go back to the field. You see, well, I don't want to waste your time, but we'll see the shake map. Let's go to the shake map, and you'll see reported feeling it. Did you feel it responses? And it's not even that populated. This area isn't even that populated. But look at the shake map. Sorry. If you look at the shake map, reported feeling it, and as we see, it's not that populated. Okay, this area is not that populated, but they felt it quite a ways off. Look, they felt it quite a ways off. They felt it around here. They felt it around here. Okay? So this is our area of today's earthquake. Okay, Appalachian Mountains of 3.8. Around here. And no doubt they have been shaken by that. Going back to the map, where do you think the mantle magma is coming from? Where can it be coming from? We know we have volcanoes here, those asphalt volcanoes. Oh, this is another big earthquake here over Puerto Rico 4. They're sleeping in the streets, the poor people. Because they're, you know, with all those quakes, their buildings are really damaged. Even if you had a seismic-proof building, it's still damaged. All this is volcanic area. It's subduction zones here. That's the Puerto Rico Trench right there. And the Greater Antilles, the Lesser Antilles are all volcanic islands. So is Puerto Rico a volcanic island. And all this is magma underneath. And also is Mexico and the subduction here. But you can see, okay, you have volcanoes here, you have asphalt volcanoes here, and you have methane faults here, just as you do on the west coast, methane sprouting. And you have the undersea seamount here, 30 volcanoes. Where is this mantle plume coming from? We know that the hotspot, the mantle plume under Yellowstone is coming from Baja, and that feeds the west coast with magma, and also this area here, Nevada, Utah, going up Idaho, and Wyoming. And that's coming from the Baja California mantle plume. It has a slab of the Pacific plate, and that plate is directing that magma under Yellowstone. It's like a table. You have a steam coming up, and you have a table over the steam, and the steam has to go somewhere. It goes this way, okay? So where is this magma coming from? Well, they don't know. They don't know where it's coming from. And I don't know if they're examining that, because they have most geologists on the west taking care of all these high threat things here. Because they haven't had that much activity on the central and east of the United States. Where do you think it's coming from? We said it's 1 billion years old. And that is a rift. So the United States is splitting here into the west here, sloughing off to the east. Now it has the other crack, the other rift here, mid-continental rift that nobody's talking about. We see a lot of earthquakes there happening, very big earthquakes. 4.5 is huge, and it's shaken up the whole area, it looks like. And this is another quake today, 3.2 in Texas. Okay, let's go here. In the details. Oh, 2,000, you see it's going up. Over 2,061 have now reported it. Natural occurring earthquake activity. Earthquakes in the stable continental region. I don't know if it's that stable, because we've got rift valleys there. How can it be stable when you have rift valleys there? Right? So most of North America, east of the Rockies, has infrequent earthquakes. Here and there, earthquakes are more numerous. For example, in New Madrid seismic zone, this is this earthquake here in Tennessee, centered on southeastern Missouri, in the Charlevoix-Kamarooska seismic zone of eastern Quebec, in New England, New York, Philadelphia, Wilmington, Delaware, urban corridor, and elsewhere. However, most of the enormous region from the Rockies to the Atlantic can go years without an earthquake large enough to be felt, and several U.S. states have never reported damaging earthquake. Earthquakes east of the Rocky Mountains, although less frequent than the west, are typically felt over a much broader region than earthquakes of similar magnitude in the west. And east of the Rockies, an earthquake can be felt over an area more than 10 times larger than a similar earthquake magnitude on the west coast. It would not be unusual for magnitude 4 earthquake in eastern or central North America to be felt by a significant percentage of the population, in many communities more than 60 miles from its source. A magnitude 5.5 earthquake in eastern or central North America might be felt by much of the population out to more than 300 miles from its source. Earthquakes east of the Rockies that are centered in populated areas and large enough to cause damage are similarly likely to cause damage out to greater distances than earthquakes of the same magnitude centered west. Most earthquakes in North America east of the Rockies occur as faulting within bedrock, usually miles deep. Few earthquakes east of the Rockies, however, have been definitely linked to mapped geological faults, in contrast to the situation at plate boundaries such as California's San Andreas fault system, where scientists can commonly use geologic evidence to identify a fault that has produced a large earthquake and thus is likely to produce large future earthquakes. Scientists who study eastern and central North America earthquakes often work from the hypothesis that modern earthquakes occur as a result of slip on pre-existing faults that were formed in earlier geologic eras that have been reactivated under the current stress condition. The bedrock of eastern North America is, however, laced with faults that were active in earlier geologic eras, and few of these faults are known to have been active in the current geologic era. In most areas east of the Rockies, the likelihood of future damaging earthquakes is currently estimated from the frequency and sizes of instrumental recorded earthquakes or earthquakes documented in historic records. Now, induced seismicity, I'm not going to go into that because not every quake, as we know, is man-made from fracking, especially not these things. I believe that this one is from the shaking from yesterday's 24 hours ago in Kansas, Hutchinson, Kansas. And we know that Kansas has in the corner of Kansas, we have researched that because of people who had heard booms and shaking, their houses were shaking, and they didn't know why. The FAA said there was no flights or supersonic flights above them, and they were really shocked and frightened because their houses were shaking too. And then we found that we have kimberlite volcanoes in Kansas, diamond spitting volcanoes right here in this area. And they are explosive. And when you have carbon dioxide trying to come out, and it can't for some reason because it's blocked, it's going to explode. The gas is going to explode to try and come out. And that could be why they heard these booms and the houses were shaking. It could be because of volcanic activity and volcanic gases trying to escape from underground. And let's remember that, yeah, Kansas has magma underground from the mid-continental ridge. Okay, Kansas has magma underground. Tennessee has magma underground from that rift, and we even have the Jacksonville volcano. Right here has with the Coliseum above it is a volcano, the volcano crater. It has the Coliseum built right over the volcano crater. Can you believe that? How did the architects and engineers allow that to happen? You go to that Coliseum and you're sitting over the crater of a volcano. God forbid. And yes, you have the oil and gas is another thing. You know, volcanoes do produce oil and gas. I don't believe we'll ever have a shortage of oil and gas because of the volcanoes. Wherever you have seashore and mountains, you also have oil deposits, gas and oil deposits. Okay, that's the first thing you learn in Geology 101. First thing you learn. I took geology in Queens College, one of my favorite courses. Amazing. Okay, we even went to an underground, what mine was it? I forget where they were mining. Anyway, it doesn't matter. In upstate, in Pennsylvania. And tremendous stuff. Okay, so that's what's happening there. I think that got dislodged from this quake yesterday, 24 hours ago. So please, all of you there, please be very careful. As we said, there were over 2,000 people that have now reported feeling it, which means, it's going up, 2,158, which means that maybe, I don't know, 10,000 plus more have felt it. Let's go to the shake map. How many felt it? Aerial. You can see it's right on that chunking, that shake map. Okay. And the population, well, no, not population. I don't know if they have that many living up there. Oh, they do. Okay, okay. Sorry. And did you feel it? Look at how many people felt it. Going all the way out here. Going all the way out here. And that's not far from where we had the other Hutchinson, Kansas. Okay, this is where they reported feeling it, all the way out here. Amazing. They felt it all the way here. Amazing. So you can see that that was pretty strong. So all of you there, please be very careful, because they're not referring to the mid-continental mantle plume, the rift of the mantle plume right there. That's all magma underneath, and they don't know where it's coming from. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.